Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of the Code Breakdown. I'm your host, Andrew DuPont.
And I'm your co-host, Brian Miller. Today, we're going to be looking at creating a Snipster app, which is something similar to Pasty that we're going to go through and see if we can illustrate the different steps that it takes to build a Rails app in the BDD way. So right now, I think we will start our first step, which is creating a gem set with RVM. Is that right, Drew?
Yeah, it sounds about right. You want me to take that over?
Sure.
All right, let's start out. So as we can see from my prompt here, we have Ruby 2.0, which is my current RVM. We can also see that by running RVM current. So let's create a gem set for this project. RVM gem set create Snipster. All right, we now have a gem set. Let's use that gem set. Use gem set use Snipster. All right, and now we can see from my prompt on the right that we have Ruby 2.0 patch version 0 in the Snipster gem set. Now we have a place where we can install using gem install Rails. And once we have the Rails gems and all its dependencies installed, we can start going into building our skeleton for our application. So now we should be able to do Rails new and then give it the name of the application that we want to create. In this case, it's Snipster. So I ran that, and it should create the basic scaffolding and skeleton for our application. And you can see all of the lines that have flown by show the different things that it has created. And it's on a process now where it's running a bundle install, which installs the dependencies of the application for us. Now that we're done with the installation of the skeleton generation, we should see here that we have a Snipster directory, and we do. If we cd inside of that, we should see the skeleton app, and we do. At this point, I would normally go in and create a Git repository inside of here by doing git init dot, which initialized an empty repository. You can ignore the bad default revision head errors. Those are simply because I have some pretty intelligent prompts in my shell that aren't intelligent enough to handle the initialization case of a Git repo. So once we do that, we can add dot, and we can make a commit which says initial skeleton or Rails skeleton of Snipster.
Something else we probably want to do is go ahead and toss a Ruby version in, so that way when we come back into this Rails app, it'll load the correct gem set for us.
That's a great idea, Brian. You want to take that on?
Sure. I know that RVM has a way of doing it, but I can never remember what in the world it is. So let's just go ahead and touch a Ruby version. If I would spell it actually correctly, that would be excellent. So, and then we'll fire up Vim and go take a look at it. Really, for this, all you need is the version number. So we're running 2.0.0, and then the name of the gem set, which was Snipster.
Brian, do you want to add the patch 0 to the end of the Ruby 2.0?
I was going to actually say it would probably behoove us to actually pin this to a patch. That way, every time you come back into it, and if Ruby does increment a version, RVM will attempt to find the latest patch version and prompt you to install it. But if you do pin it to a specific patch, it'll keep it pretty consistent there. So it looks like we've got that. All right. So as a good BDD and TDD process, we do need RSpec and Cucumber installed, don't we?
That is correct.
So we should probably just throw that into our gem file. So let's pop that open, go down to our testing and development group that does not actually exist.
Mm-hmm.
Do you usually throw the Cucumber and Rails stuff into development and tests?
I do, yeah. I usually keep development and tests pretty tightly paired, primarily because it's when you're doing BDD and TDD, it's really the same thing, right? Your tests are your development environment, and your development environment is your test environment. They're pretty much one and the same.
So if I remember correctly, isn't it cucumbers are require false?
I believe so.
All right, so let's go ahead and background this, and let's get our stuff installed. Both Cucumber and RSpec come with some really handy generators to get some of the initial stuff installed, which makes it easy to get started. So after this finishes, we'll go ahead and run those. Oh, this is always so exciting.
Yeah, I'm double checking right now for you that a require false is necessary, and you're definitely correct. The other thing that is required is a database cleaner, which I believe we forgot to add.
I did forget to add, and that is a travesty. All right, so we'll just go ahead and pop database cleaner in here too. We'll be, you know, and
I think it's an underscore, if I remember correctly.
It is. And my inconsistent use of quotations is just horrible.
We all have our things, Bri.
I know. If that was the worst, I'd be happy.
Well, look at that. Awesome.
All right, so let's take a look.
Bunch of gems installed.
All right. You want to take over the generator installs and run with that?
Sure. Yeah. So Brian is shown here by running Rails G, the list of generators that Rails knows about, and we can see that there's an RSpec install generator. So why don't we go ahead and actually run RSpec install generator and see what it does. All right, we can see it created 3 files. The first one's a .rspec. If we open the .rspec file, we can look inside, and all it is are command line options that you want passed to the RSpec command when you run it inside your Rails app. If we go back out and we look, we can see that it also created a spec directory, and inside of the spec directory it created a spec helper file. So let's go look at that. If we vim, go to spec helper file, after I refresh the cache, in here we can see this is actually the file that loads your Rails environment when you run your RSpec tests. It's also got some love here, which is RSpec auto run, which we don't use because we use some fancier tools like Zeus, and it conflicts with most of those. Here it loads any support files, and then it's kind of got your default RSpec configuration block where you can pass any options to your RSpec configuration. But the defaults are probably good enough to get going for now. So let's see what kind of changes we have. So we have a bunch of gem file changes, and we have the RSpec generation, and we have the Ruby version. So let's make some commits before we get too far off. Let's get add.ruby version, git commit, added rvm Ruby version. We did this, so when we cd into the directory, rvm auto switches to the proper Ruby version and gem set. Cool. And then we also added RSpec gem file. Let's add that. Gem file lock, RSpec, and add spec. Here we added Cucumber and RSpec gems to Rails app, and that's about it. Why is so we could use them, of course. Cool. Okay, and get status, we have no changes left. Okay, awesome. So if we notice here, we have a couple different things in our directory structure here. We have a test folder and we have a spec folder. The test folder is actually the stock test unit testing framework that Rails comes with by default. When we did the Rails app generation, we could have passed switches to it to tell it not to generate the test stuff. But it's easily removable just by doing an rm-rf on test. And git remove test fixtures dot git keep, git remove test functional dot git keep, git remove test integration dot git keep. Here I'm actually staging each of the removals of these files. Test performance, browsing test, git remove test, test helper, which is similar to the spec helper that RSpec has. Okay, and removed default test unit stuff. Because we aren't using test unit. Okay. And if we ls, we should see we no longer have that, right? So let's see how our RSpec stuff's doing. If we just run RSpec spec, that should run our RSpec suite. And we can see that it's at least happy enough to load the configuration and not fail epically. So let's move on and make sure we got Cucumber in the same state. We did not run the generator for Cucumber yet. So if we run Rails G, or to see the list of generators that Rails knows about, we can see Cucumber installed there. So let's run that and see what that does. Okay, so this created a number of more files than previously, but it really tweaked our database YAML. It set up the basic directory structure for Cucumber features, which is the feature directory. It also set up the step definitions directory and the support directories. And then it just created some script stuff that we don't really care too much about because we can run Cucumber directly. So let's actually see what happens if we just run Cucumber. Looks like it ran our tests. It has no color though. I don't know why it has no color.
I don't know.
Get status. I'm not sure. But it's running our tests. Let's see what happens if we run cucumber -- help. Did you see color?
Dash D, but it was also dash color was supposed to work as well. So
Well, that's interesting.
maybe if there's no features, it doesn't bother.
Maybe it doesn't bother with color if there's no features, because there's nothing to be green. All right.
Seems economical.
It does.
You know, we probably should at least have a conversation about the database.
The database is a big thing. Let me get this commit in. Okay. All right. So we have a commit in. We have Cucumber running and we have RSpec running. So now let's start talking about the database.
So, I mean, we can always go with something like Mongo or, you know, something really exotic.
We could do that.
But I don't think that's going to be very... I don't know. I think that's going to be a little overkill for what we want to do. So, shall we stick with something a little bit more?
I mean, I'm fine with Postgres if you want to stick with Postgres.
I think Postgres sounds good.
Yeah,
I've been happy with it.
Yeah, I think so too.
So how do we tell Rails we don't want to use SQLite anymore?
That's a good question. I think we need to add the Postgres gem to the gem file.
I think that'd be probably a good way to start.
You want to do that real quick?
Sure. All right. Let's just go ahead and. So how angry do you think Rail's going to be at me if I do that?
If you do that, is it going to be that angry? Really?
Well, I got to go and update the database .yaml and tell it not to try to talk to SQLite.
Well, you will have to do that.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to run anything like Rake, where it's going to go try to load the Rail stack and then tell you very, very tersely that,
That is a problem.
Yeah. The things that you're doing are bad. Oh, and then we've got this whole. I've got to redo all of this.
We do have to redo all of that. We can just steal that from another app because that's
really
what
could.
I normally do.
I mean, can we also run the Rails new again and just have it overwrite the database.yaml?
We could do that if you want to.
That seems pretty. Ooh, go away.
Either of those options should work.
Mm-hmm.
I've done both of them in the past.
Let's do this one because sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have another Rails app. So I can just do a dot, right? And then I want to tell it to use. Oh no, not MySQL. What's wrong with me?
What is wrong with you?
Seriously.
You've been programmed.
It was muscle memory.
Oh.
Oh.
Can't initialize new Rails app with directory of another.
That's just not. So okay, so we are gonna have to do this.
I've done that
Rails
before.
new. Throw away. That's just. I'm gonna have to wait through all of this.
Invalid value. You need that QL.
I do. I think that's the fundamental problem. I just don't know how in the world to, what to call it. Is it Postgres? Is it Postgres SQL?
That's right. The cool people just say Postgres.
I know they do. Yeah. So I should probably do something different, right?
That's right. Throw away. You're gonna merge this manually. You're just copying that one file over.
I'm just gonna. Oh, I want to throw it away.
That's pretty gangster.
Yeah. Hinky.
Here you go.
It's just. There's nothing better than recording things to, make your fingers all of a sudden to betray you.
Yeah, it's like when you're pairing and somebody's staring at you while you're pairing and you can't type. And as soon as they leave, you can type like 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, no. No, go away.
There's got to be like some psychological stuff going on.
Oh, look at that. Now it's all. Oh no, it's. So let's just.
The database is going to be Snipster.
Yep.
Snipster. Oh, look at that fancy search and replace inside of Vim.
So what are we? Snipster. Oh, you know what? Yeah, it would be helpful if I did this correctly.
There's a correct way.
Yeah, you gotta throw that % at the front,
Oh, if you want it to happen for the whole thing, yeah.
Yes.
Boom. Snipster, Snipster, Snipster. We gotta add a user, don't we?
Yeah. All right. Since I'm all thumbs when it comes to Postgres, shall
create user Snipster, if I remember correctly.
That's just.
Let's just try that because I can't remember if we have to do anything else after that. I don't do this enough.
You want to just run the.
Try to create the DB and run the normal Rails process for doing that.
So bundle exec, because at this point, it's always good to run things using bundle exec. Make sure that your complete gem set's being loaded. Then you won't run into those weird issues with things like Rake being a different version.
Yes, definitely.
That's always fun.
Yeah, the reason there are those edge cases is because because there's 2 store locations that gems are stored. One which is where the bundle installed gems are stored, and one which is the gem set that RVM manages.
Yeah. So it
permission
looks like
denied to create that.
Yeah, it looks like that was full of fail.
I'm just trying to see if create. I'm just playing with commands right now, trying to see if they will tell me what I need to know. Role can create new databases. Oh.
Hmm.
Oh. So maybe we really wanted Snipster. Wait, we really wanted -d Snipster. Role already exists. Well, how do we get rid of a role? Delete. No. Destroy. Drop. Drop user -snipster. Create user -d snipster. All right, try it again.
All right.
Look at that. All it takes is some thinking.
Oh, great success.
Boom. Magic.
Break DB. Is it prepare tests?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Or DB
Another
prepare.
thing. No. Another one of those things I really don't run that often.
Yeah, I don't really run that either. But it'll tell you.
Let's see if it can tell me. -T, capital T, awesome for rake, will tell you all of the tasks.
Yes.
Very helpful when you have no idea what you're supposed to be doing.
Which
Tests.
is always, because none of us know what we're doing.
I don't
see it.
Is it like an AT to do show you every? Yeah, there it is. Yep, test prepare. A will, because rake will only show you the capital T will only show you stuff that has documentation, but the A will actually show you everything.
Everything.
Yep.
Oh, test prepare, bundle
and
install.
Here's a great example of what bundle exec actually does, which is just actually execute whatever executable it can find within its bin directory. So
needs a schema RB.
Yeah, you know what?
So now Brian's running the migrations, which are going to generate the schema RB, which is a Ruby representation of the database schema that is stored.
All right. So it looks like we've got our test DB created. It looks like we've got our regular DB created. So let's see. Is there anything else we're missing?
I don't know. What does git status look like right now? Is it time to make a commit?
I don't think so. I mean,
I'd commit the database config.
All right. What did we do with the gem file?
Got rid of SQLite
that's right.
and Postgres. All right, so what are we going to do after this now? I mean, the whole idea of this application is to have kind of like a snippet management tool, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, we probably want to talk about some of the features that we want to add, generally what we want it to do, and then we would start writing the first feature we think is kind of like the starting off point for the app. Usually that's authentication or sign up or something along that lines, because it's very hard to do things if you don't have users.
Yeah.
So right, let me commit this real quick.
Let's see.
Added Postgres. Actually, we replaced.
Oh yeah.
SQLite with Postgres SQL.
Oh.
And migrations.
Nice.
Did this because Postgres
rocks
is superior to. Ooh.
Yeah.
Better. Slightly better than.
I love how when you run into words that you spell incorrectly,
Yeah.
it's like a forceful like instruction to you to rechange to change the word that
It's,
you were writing in the first place.
it's where you go reach for a thesaurus instead of a dictionary.
Yes. Awesome. Cool.
Oh, yeah. That was also muscle memory right there, too.
Oh,
Ah.
that's okay.
Yep.
We'll do that in a little bit.
Messing up my workflow.
Workflow. Cool. So we now have our specs set up. We have our cucumbers set up. Oh, and if you guys notice, I have BEC and BER. There are bash aliases for bundle exec RSpec and bundle exec cucumber. Um, so those are set up and running, and we are ready to start doing BDD from the outside in and building our Rails app. Brian,
Yep.
do you want to take this on in another screencast and kill this off here?
I think it's a pretty natural breaking point at this point.
Yeah?
What do
Okay.
you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we did some pretty good stuff here. If we check out what we did, I mean, we set up the initial skeleton. We added RVM with the Ruby version file to set up our gem set properly for us. We added Cucumber and RSpec gems to the gem file. We got rid of the stupid test unit stuff. And we also added the Cucumber install generation scripts and set up Postgres. So we should be ready to go, man.
Yep.
All right, sounds good. So next episode, I guess we'll pick it up with where we left off with this, and we'll probably start fleshing out some of the features. You maybe want to flesh out like listing them first, or creating them, or what are you thinking, Brian?
I'm really thinking that the sign up feature is going to be the next big feature that we're going to start with, and that we'll start with pretty much defining those high level features and then taking them and drilling them down into the specs, all the way down into the different models that we're going to need. Really show kind of the full stack slices for development. So
Awesome.
really get that outside in development going.
Yeah, definitely. All right, sounds like a plan. I guess
All right.
we'll see you guys next time, and in the next episode, we'll get some more good stuff for you. All right? Hope you enjoyed.